Okay, observe the following matrix. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's either a 2 by 3 or 3 by 2. Don't say it, but think to yourself. Don't say it. It is a 3 by 2. How many of you had it right in your head? Okay. Sure you did. Now, it's easy to forget because you got to have rows first and then columns. And rows are this way, so there's 3 rows and then 2 columns. Okay, when you're comparing matrices, of course, if they're the same size, they play well with each other. They will, work nice. If it's 3 by 2 and then another 3 by 2, they fit nice. 3, 2, 5, 8, 9, 7. They work well together for adding and stuff, but these two cannot multiply each other. You can't multiply two matrices that are like this. Now, it's not because they're the same. Some matrices that are the same can multiply. This is the part where it gets a little complicated. If this is a 3 by 2, of course, this is also a 3 by 2. If these numbers don't match, then they can't be multiplied together. All right? So this number and this number have to be the same. So if this is always rows and then columns, and then rows and then columns, the number of columns must match the number of rows on the other. All right. So can these two matrices, doesn't even matter what numbers I pick, can they multiply by each other? Yeah, so this would be a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2, and these match. Since they do work, then this is the kind of matrix you will have when you're all done. You might think that that always looks that way, a 2 by 2. Of course it's a 2 by 2 matrix when I'm done. But I'll give you an example of one, for instance, that you can multiply these two together, and you only get one number when you're done. I'll show you what I mean. Would you agree that this is a 1 by 3? And that this over here is a 3 by 1, right? And these match up, and therefore they will work. They can multiply each other. And the answer will be a, look at that, 1 by 1 matrix. As in there's only one number answered to it. Answer's like 23. Well, how do you get there? All right, here's how you multiply a couple matrices. I want to get over into the notes for today and get on to example 1. So find the notes for today in Schoology and go to example 1. Okay, the first thing I would want you to do on any of these problems is underneath them, write down what they are. So this is a 2 by 2, and this is a 2 by 2. And the first thing you're doing is just verifying that they actually work, and this one will. And it will produce a 2 by 2 matrix, see? Now, to actually get this multiplied out, you would think it would be as easy as this times this, 5 times 1, and you just slap the answer right here. It is not that easy. It's not that simple. What you've got to do is match up rows and columns. So, what I think is the easiest way is to label your answer matrix right here with what should go right there. And tell me, what spot is that? 1, 1, and it's row 1, column 1, right? So I'm going to write that, R1, C1. It's a lot like ricin at the beginning. You know what ricin is? It's that poison that they just, this guy got caught sending ricin poison that he made himself. I won't tell you too many directions on how to make poison, but he figured it out on the internet how to make this poison, and he sent it to, I think it was the president and some other congressman or whatever. And then the problem, of course, is that it's almost impossible when you've got this dust around your house to hide it. So when they went and searched his house, they found traces of rice, and it's really hard to explain. Why do you have this really rare poison in your house? That makes you pretty much a cop suspect then. Anyway, so the R1C1. This one's R2C1. This one's R1C2, and the last one is R2C2. Related to R2C2. All right. So now, how do I figure out the actual answers? This is the point of this, labeling what these are, is it tells you where to get the numbers that you're going to put there. So that's row 1 and column 1. So let me show you what that looks like then. Here's a highlighter. Row 1, column 1. See what I just did there? Now, the 5 times 1 and the 6 times 3 go together. You add them. And you get 1 times 5 and 6 times 3 and add them. 1 times 5 is 5, 6 times 3 is 18, 18 and 5. You add them together. What do you get? So if you're on an iPad, I would just erase these and write in the 23 right there. It's 23, right? All right. So this spot was row 2, column 1. Row 2. Pause for a second. Okay, so I'm going to go to, let me see, row 2, that's here, and column 1, that's here. And the 2 times 5 makes 10, 6 times 4 makes 24, 24 and 10 makes 34, so I put a 34 here. Would you finish the other 2 right now? See what you get for the other 2 spots. I'm going to pause, walk around and see if you're on the right track. Okay, I was finding a startling number of people doing it wrong, so I'm happy that we had a chance to talk individually. This one comes out to, let's see, if it's row 1, column 2, then I gotta go row 1 here and column 2 there. And I think the most common mistake was they weren't doing this part right. 7 times the 1, 8 times the 3, and then add them. So 7 times 1 is 7, 8 times 3 is 24, 24 and 7 makes 31. How many of you had 31 in that spot? All right. Now, the last part there is row 2, column 2. So I'll move this off to the side. Row 2 is this, column 2 is this. The 7 and the 2 make 14. 8 times 4 makes 32. 32, 14 goes right here. 32 plus 14, which makes 46. So right in there, 46 goes. Okay. That's the basics of how to multiply these. It is not super intuitive. It's not like an Apple product. You just sit down and go, well, of course. To me, if it was super intuitive, you just go that and that, go right there. But it doesn't work that way. You got to write out the little formula for each one. All right. My first question for you then on this is, will this work? Example 2. It won't work. What do you mean? How can you prove it? Because what by what? 2 by 1. And a 2 by 2. How do you prove that it won't work? Those two aren't the same. You are correct. So right away, example 2 is done. You can't do it. Okay, moving on. Example 3. Go to example 3, please. And on this one, how many rows? 2. How many columns? How many rows in this one? How many columns? And you can expect the teacher probably wouldn't do back-to-back if it didn't work. So yeah, this one works. And this is a 2 by 1 matrix when it's done. Now you got to think that out. It's a 2 by 1 matrix. I've made too much room here. That'd be like a 2 by 2. 2 rows, 1 column. So just over. It's just like that. And I have 2 spots then. This one's row 1, column 1. This spot here. Oh, it's way off again. That spot right there is row 2, column 1. All right. Go ahead and try that one. See if you can get example 3's answer to work. This time, of course, you got 3 numbers that all match up, and you multiply them all and add them all. Okay, I'm back again, and here's what you should have done for that one. Row 1, column 1. The 1 and the 4 makes 4. Please stop talking. The 5 and the 0 makes 0. And the 9 and 7 makes 9 times 7 is 63. So 63 plus 0 plus 4 makes 67. Raise your hand if you had a 67 here. Okay, good. I think you get the idea. I do want to remind you that there's one more kind of multiplication that's really common and easy. Say this was your problem. Then you just multiply everything in it by 2. That is a super easy kind of multiplication. It is intuitive. Okay, that kind we didn't talk about much because it's so easy. And the answer for this would be a 2 by 2. And it would be 6, 3 times 2. You have a 6 is your first number. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're on to example 6. What if there is a variable? Well, it's really not that complicated. Just wherever you would be doing, like this is, for instance, row 1, column 1, in this first spot. If I'm going to use row 1 and column 1, I'm going to have my variable in there. What do? All I do is I go 1 times the 2a makes 2a. 6 times 3 makes 18. And how do I add 18 plus 2a? Just write 18 plus 2a. For my first spot right there. Kind of big and hard to make it fit in there, but all right, so you just throw in the variable when you would have normally multiplied by a number there. You just say a. All right. So your first homework problem. Why don't everybody get to your homework? It's on Schoology. It says, I think it says Matrices Day 2. And today's date, which is 5-6. And this is the first problem of the homework. Would you give it a shot? I will pause, write down what I think the answer is, and then you can check it against mine. All right, so here's the answers for the homework problem. And if you need more help on how to work these out, please ask one-on-one. I'll be glad to help you. Uh-oh, is there a mistake in here? Okay. Is there any mistakes in this? Anybody know what a mistake?